Governor, thank you for being here. It's great to be back in Salt Lake.
It's great to have you. We even tried to get some good weather for a couple days. Today's a little iffy, but pretty nice.
As you know, our team has been working over the last year to help governors and members of the audience here align service programs with workforce development opportunities. But I think maybe we can start our dialogue a little broader than that. I think we could maybe begin with what makes Utah stand out when it comes to serving others. Your state consistently leads the country in volunteerism and charitable giving and in other forms of service. So why do you think that is? What's in the water here in Utah?
Well, welcome everyone. It's great to have you all here, and I want to thank Jack and the NGA for putting this together. I'm the luckiest governor in the country in that I do get to serve in a place where there is so much service and giving back. Obviously, I mean, it goes without saying that there's a faith component to that for sure. We are the most religious state in the nation, and not just the predominant faith, but all faiths really prioritize serving and charitable giving and giving back. So we kind of start with a little bit of a head start, but it's more than that. It also goes back to kind of the way this place was settled. And I have to say that when the westward migration was happening in the United States, and was happening for a long time before Utah was settled, everybody was going around this place. No one really wanted to settle here. It wasn't a great place. There was a trapper who had spent some time in this region, and he literally bet $1,000 for anybody who could grow the first bushel of corn here because he didn't think it was possible. And so my ancestors and many others who came here were seeking a place where they could practice their religion. My great-great-great-grandparents had their home literally burned down by a mob and were forced out. And so they had to go someplace where nobody really wanted to be. Of course, there were Native Americans here, but not a lot even in this Salt Lake area. And it was so inhospitable that their very survival depended on their ability to take care of each other. They couldn't just rely on government to fix things for them because, I mean, they were the government. It was all starting fresh, and it was just the people. And I kind of liken it to like when the Pilgrims arrived and some of those early Europeans who came here and things were so dire and people were dying and just surviving those first winters. Only imagine if it was just 3 or 4 generations ago instead of 20 generations ago. It's still we still talk about it. We still read these stories. We have those connections, and so it did kind of become part of our DNA. When you hear about the way the West was settled, we have this idea in our mind of kind of this independent cowboy going out and putting their ranch somewhere. And there was a little bit of that, but Brigham Young, when they settled here, they actually didn't allow people to live on their farms. They made them all live in town outside of their farms, which is very different than the Midwest, right? You have a farm and you have a house and a barn. Here, all the houses were together and the farms were on the outskirts. And again, that was intentional just so they could live, they could survive, because they knew that some of the farms were going to fail, and that meant your neighbors had to take care of you. There was no government help or government assistance. And so I think all of those things have kind of combined, and it turns out that it's just a really good way to live, and it's fun when businesses move here or people move here from other places. They see it and they feel it and they become a part of it. So even if service kind of wasn't part of where they lived before, it becomes part of the way they live now, whether they belong to any faith or not. It's just, when you move into the neighborhood and your neighbor brings you a loaf of bread, you're like, well, that's kind of cool. And then you do it when your next neighbor moves in. It's a really positive thing.
Yeah, and I know you have some personal experience with, being as a young person, your neighbors taking care of you. We're going to maybe circle back to the state's youth, but maybe we could turn to how you personally view service, at a high level. Something you're very passionate about. You have a long track record of serving others. So I guess I have 2 questions here. How do you define service? And how does that inform your leadership philosophy and your governing philosophy?
So I define service very, very simply, and it's just doing something good for someone else. It's putting someone else ahead of ourselves, which is different. Let me kind of make a distinction. Charitable giving is very important, and we lead the nation there as well, and I certainly encourage that. That's critical. But drive-by philanthropy is very different than actually serving and getting your hands dirty. Service requires connection, where charitable giving does not. And I think connection is absolutely critical. It is part of my governing philosophy in a couple ways. So one of which is, this is going to sound like a partisan take. Please let me assure you that it is not a partisan take. I do not mean this in kind of a conservative way. I mean this in a very practical way, and I think any of my friends on the left who are governing will tell you this as well. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. And that is that government was not designed to solve all of our problems. It just wasn't. If you were going to design something to solve our problems, it would look very different. So, for example, I have lots of really good ideas, you guys. I mean, I have so many good ideas. And I have to wait for my legislature to be in session, and they're not in session until January. They're only in session for 45 days. Thank goodness it's not any longer than that. And if I'm lucky, in March of next year, I don't know if I can use this word, bastardized version of my good idea may or may not pass.
Your farm words are okay.
Yeah, okay, my farm words are okay in here. Because I have 104 people who I have to convince that, half of them that my idea is a good idea, and any one of them can change it if they can convince their colleagues to change it. That's not a good way to go about solving problems. I also have a whole bunch of constraints and rules around me that make it very difficult, that tell me I have to kind of treat every situation the same. And again, those are good rules. They're there for a reason, but they don't work well. We had a king, and we didn't like that, so we fought a war to get away from that and designed a system that would make it impossible for anyone, although we're certainly challenging that, to get too much power and too much authority. We wanted to make it very hard to do that. And so I say that as a practical matter, that one of the problems we have today, we used to understand this. When Alexis de Tocqueville came here in the 1830s, he saw something very unique. He said, he wrote it in his book that Americans were different than anywhere else because when there was a problem, they formed an association to solve that problem. Because these associations could actually do it. Many of them were religious associations, but not all of them. I love to point to our Rotary clubs. Do we have any Rotarians in here? Yeah, we have 2 Rotarians, my guys. You're my people. We used to have, if I had asked this question 50 years ago, half the room would have belonged to the Rotarians or something like that, right? Some sort of service organization or club. They don't do that anymore. That's how we solved our biggest problems. So now when we don't have these groups or these Rotarians and others, religious organizations, we're less religious than we've ever been, solving all of these problems, then government is the last step, right? So we do it, we grow government, we spend a whole bunch of money, and we're not solving the problems. I mean, we've spent more on poverty. We've spent $4 trillion on poverty in the last 40 years, and the poverty rate in our country has not changed at all. Hasn't changed at all. It's exactly the same as it was 40 years ago when we started spending those $4 trillion. Again, that sounds partisan. It's just practical for me. So it's part of my governing philosophy. It is that I don't have the tools and I don't have enough money to fix everybody's problems. I'm going to try where I can and the ones we have to. But if I have a people that are solving others' problems, then it's going to make governing much better. It's going to make us much better as a society, and we will flourish because, and I know we'll talk more about this, but the lessons we get personally from serving other people helps in so many other ways. It actually helps us more than it helps the people we're serving, which kind of doesn't make sense, but it's real, and so everybody wins when we give back.
Yeah, love that, and a great reminder to maybe pick back up Alexis de Tocqueville. I think we share that's one of the great things about that piece of work is that you can read a couple pages at a time. Right?
That's right.
It's not meant to be written.
Yeah, you probably can't read more than a couple pages at a time, but it's absolutely worth it.
So maybe we can pick up on a couple of those ideas that you mentioned and maybe talk about some of the policy change that you've made on this issue here in Utah, both with workforce and economic development policy levers. 2 years ago, you issued an executive order that requires businesses that receive economic development incentives to provide service opportunities for their employees. So why do you think it's important to bring that requirement to the private sector?
Yeah, so I started by telling you how great Utah is, which every governor does, right? And how this was, I think you mentioned it, kind of in our DNA, right? It's who we are. We've been this way. But I'm really worried that as we move from 3 or 4 generations to 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, right? Like we're getting further away from that it's actually not in our DNA. It's literally not in our DNA. It's something that has to be intentionally passed on from generation to generation. And we can't take it for granted, this natural advantage that we have. And so I asked the question, are there policy levers that we can use to help keep that as part of our culture? We were the fastest, in the last census, we were the fastest growing state in the nation. So more and more people are moving here who do not have that background or that history. And how do we help them to understand that service isn't a religious thing, it's a human thing. And so I found that there were 3 or 4 policy levers that I could pull. One of them was, look, just like every state, we do give some incentives for businesses that want to locate here. I wish we could all just agree, all 50 states, that we're not going to do that anymore, but everybody's doing it, so we have to do it as well. But I said, look, there has to be some strings attached to that. If we're going to give you a tax break to locate your business here, that means that you're not carrying your fair share. It means it's going to take, those are tax dollars we would be using to bless the lives of our citizens. And so you have an obligation to give back to the people who live here. And by the way, like I ran a business, we required service hours. We paid our employees to do this. We gave them paid service hours every year, but you had to go serve. It made our business better. It made our people want to work there. We had people lined up to try to get a job at our company because the quality of life was higher, and one of that was a service component. So I'm actually doing them a favor. Yeah. But we do require, if you take one of these incentives to come here, every employee has to give 20 hours back every year. That's a requirement, and they love it. We don't get any pushback. It's a really positive thing. But then we went even further. We'll talk about some of the fellowships that we're doing. We have a pilot program right now in 4 of our school districts that we're hoping to expand to all of our school districts that add in a service component for graduation. And it's awesome, you guys. I mean, these schools that are doing it right now, the feedback has just been overwhelmingly positive. And then the University of Utah and Utah Valley University is adding this now. They're adding they're giving credit for service, graduation credit at those 2 universities. We're hoping to expand that to all of our universities as well. So if you serve in the military, if you take a gap year, a AmeriCorps, if you in my faith, I served a mission in Mexico for 2 years. They're going to give you some credit for that because they recognize the value that brings, not just to making you a better student, but the life lessons that come from that are every bit as good as anything you will learn in a textbook or in a lecture there. And recognizing that, I think, is really helpful. So there are levers that we can pull to help just state unequivocally that in Utah we believe in service, and if you want to live here, if you want to have a business here, we expect you to believe in service as well.
Great. You mentioned the one Utah Service Fellowship, so we'd love for maybe to tell the group a little bit about this program and how you're measuring its success.
Yeah, so we're very excited. So this is something we launched. I think Utah and Maryland. I have to say Maryland beat us on this. I don't know if we have any of our Maryland friends there. Those are my people. Yep, we love our friends Wes Moore and his team in Maryland, and we just loved what he was doing. So basically, what it is, you can apply for this fellowship. Think of it kind of as a gap year, post high school, before college or whatever it is you're going to do. We have some private funders, and I want to thank the incredible family foundations that are doing this kind of work. I know we have a couple here with the Schultz family and the Casey family. Thank you. Others who have been so generous to help us with this. We convinced the legislature to give us some money as well, because we want to, there's an argument about, is service really service if you're getting paid for it? And certainly there are some differences, and we should all do voluntary service where we can. But I also don't want to make it exclusive, so that it's a thing of privilege that you can only take a gap year if you have wealthy parents, right? That doesn't work for me, and I want everybody to have this opportunity. So we give them a stipend. The idea is that the nonprofit that they are with will also give a stipend. We have some AmeriCorps funds available as well, scholarship funds to help you to be able to afford college when you're done with this. So there are just wins all the way around. We have about 1,000 students now that have gone through this over the past 2 years. And again, the feedback has just been tremendous. It's a workforce multiplier for sure. We're helping these, so kind of matching them with nonprofits who desperately need the help. They're getting it at a much more affordable price for half what they would normally have to pay someone. So that means they can hire 2 employees instead of 1. And then it's just the connection they make with each other too, the cohorts themselves. Because we bring them together, they spend time together, it's life altering. Many of them literally have altered what they were going to study, the careers that they wanted to go into now, because they've gotten a taste of this, and they realize there are more important things in life when it comes to happiness than just making money, and they're finding that their lives, they're flourishing. And our state is doing better because of that. And we're measuring all of that. We're trying to understand what kind of experiences they're having. Those that are having good experiences, what was the case? Those who had a negative experience, how can we fix that? One of the things I want to look at too, that we're not really doing well right now, I want to look at the mental health aspect of this as well, kind of where they were in their mental state before they started this program and where they were afterwards. I can tell you anecdotally that it has a major impact, a positive impact on their mental health as well. And with some generations who have really been struggling because of social media and other ills, that's another very positive takeaway.
Yeah, well, let's come back to Utah's young people in a moment, but we'd love to keep picking on our colleagues in Maryland for just 1 second if we can. You know this, but we at NGA get a great deal of fulfillment when our members share policy ideas with each other and enact similar policy change as a result, of course, with different provisions that are better suited for their state. So we'd love to ask you maybe what you've learned from Governor Moore about service.
Look, it's been so much fun to work together. Again, very different demographics, right? When you kind of think of Maryland and Utah, obviously there's the blue state, red state piece of this, but not just that, a very urban state, more of a rural state. Although it surprises people, we're actually the 9th most urban state in the country, because 90% of our population lives along this 50-mile corridor right here. But the rest of the state, where I grew up, very big kind of rural state. So we have those demographic differences for sure. But one of the things I learned from Governor Moore, I quote him all the time. He says that service will save us. And again, where we kind of took it for granted here, that was just who we are, what I saw in him was this very intentional decision, coming from his very personal life experiences. I mean, the guy's got just an amazing life, both of us in very different ways. I grew up on a small farm in the middle of nowhere, one of the poorest counties, grew up very poor. My parents get divorced when I'm 10 years old. Really kind of rough childhood growing up, heading in the wrong direction. He grows up in a very different, loses his dad very early on, gets into trouble, gets arrested as a young man, finds his way, goes into the military, gets a degree, runs an incredible nonprofit. I mean, his book, his story, I mean, this guy is unlike anybody I've ever met. The true story of coming from nothing and becoming someone, the embodiment of the American dream. But he will tell you that it happened because of his opportunities to serve and give back, and then people that served him. And so seeing him just saying intentionally, like, this is good for our kids, this is good for our state, not a religious thing, we're going to be intentional about it. And I was really jealous that he did it. And so I'm going to steal all that, and we're going to do it here too. And I hope that other governors will steal his ideas as well.
Love that. We've been circling, the topic of young people, and so maybe we can zoom in on the impact that service can have on our country's youth. 2 years ago, you dedicated your state address to Utah's youth, and at the end of that address, you made a plea to your state's young people. You urged them to fully embrace their right to pursue happiness. So I guess my question maybe here is a two-parter as well. What did you mean by that exactly, embracing their right to pursue happiness, and what role do the programs that we're discussing today play in aiding that pursuit for young people?
So it's tough being a young person today, and I have 4 kids. I have 3 boys and a daughter. My daughter just graduated from high school, my youngest, so we're technically empty nesters, but we've had 2 boomerangs, so I've got two living in my basement right now, which is part of the challenge, right? The affordability challenge is real. Just saw some stats yesterday that the average age of a first-time home buyer just over the past 3 years has gone from 31 to 40, which is awful. And so in that speech, what I talked about is, besides the affordability piece, we're living in some of the best times in the history of the world. As a student of history, if you look at if you look at longevity, if you look at kind of the flourishing that is happening, we live in the wealthiest society in the history of the world. More opportunities than ever before. Yes, there are some bad things happening, but the problem is all of the bad things that are happening, there's always been bad things happening now, are right in front of you all of the time. And it's led to kind of this culture of doomerism that is out there. And again, social media is its own set of problems. Social media is part of the problem in putting that in front of you at all times. But the dopamine addiction, the lack of connection, all of the things that are telling our young people that this is the worst time to ever be alive, that climate and everything else, that it's hopeless, we're never going to change. Everything's wrong, and it's incredibly depressing when you see that. One of the biggest problems we have, and psychologists will tell you this, is an external versus an internal locus of control. So when you have an external locus of control, that's when you feel helpless, like everything is happening to you, and it leads to anxiety, depression, self-harm, and we've seen that spike that has happened, really coinciding. Not coincidentally with the rise of social media. And what psychologists will tell you is that to have a healthy outlook, you have to find your internal locus of control, which means that the world doesn't happen to you, I happen to the world. I get to decide my future and what's going to happen to me. I decide my happiness. They will also tell you that one of the very best ways to do that is to serve and give back. We've made a mistake, and I've made this mistake. I get to speak at lots of graduations, high school graduations, college graduations. I get to be the commencement speaker. It's a great honor. And all of us go in there, and we do some form of the congratulations, you're the best. You need to go out and change the world and find your happiness, find something that makes you happy and that will change the world. We're relying on you to change this world because you're the best generation. Turns out it's probably not going to happen. It's really hard to change the world, you guys. I'm the governor of the state of Utah. I'm not changing the world. It's just not happening. And there's only one of me. There's only 50 of us in this country, right? The odds of a graduating class of 1,000 kids going out and changing the world, maybe one of them will have an opportunity to do something that resonates in a way that gets some world attention. Maybe. Not going to happen. And so they get out there, they find out very quickly, oh, the world is happening to me. I can't make a difference. I'm depressed. I'm sad. Here's what we need to do. We should be saying, instead of saying go out and change the world, we should be telling kids to go out and change their neighborhood, because they can. They absolutely can. And there's nothing more rewarding than doing that. And the irony of that is that's ultimately how we do change the world, is one neighborhood at a time. It's logging off of social media, logging off of looking at what's happening a world away where you can have no impact. It doesn't mean you shouldn't pay attention. I'm not saying that at all. But you definitely should pay less attention and start focusing on the problems that are right next to you, literally next door or across the street, the food bank down the street, where you can volunteer and give back. And what that does psychologically, it gives you an internal locus of control, because you feel like you're making a difference, because you actually are making a difference. We have multiple psychologists, not just here in Utah, but all over the country now, that are prescribing service before they will prescribe psychotropic drugs. They're making that change. Because there is great data now, great research that shows that giving back and serving does more for you psychologically than the medications that they have available. And so they want to start there. I'll go a step further too. It's actually good for your physical health. There's some really good research out there that shows that people who serve regularly, it reduces your blood pressure, which is, and others, it reduces stress levels, all kinds of things that are good for your physical health as well. And so if there's anything close to kind of a magic thing out there, other than maybe GLP-1 drugs now, I don't know. This is the definitely up there with anything else we can do.
So maybe we could talk about disagree better
Sure, yeah.
a little bit, for maybe those who might not know. Every NGA chair picks an initiative to advance with our team during their one-year term. Governor Cox's initiative was a little bit outside the box, but has relevance to today's discussion. So we'd love for you to tell the audience a little bit about Disagree Better.
Yeah, some of you probably are at least a little bit familiar with it. It was really outside the box for NGA, and I'm really grateful for the incredible staff at NGA who helped us with this one. We were looking at our initiative, kind of traditional initiatives. I was looking at healthcare reform and lowering the cost of healthcare, something we desperately need to do. Looking at energy, the energy consumption and how to produce more energy in ways that are good for the environment. Critical minerals, our reliance on China. So really looking kind of traditionally. And my staff and I started having this conversation, like, it's so frustrating that we can't solve any of the biggest problems in our country right now. I mean, literally, we have a government that's not functioning at all. It's shut down. And there were threats of shutdowns every 6 months then, and so mostly it's because we all hate each other, and that's very unproductive. Started looking at some data and some statistics that were fascinating. 70% of Americans hate where politics is right now. They're desperate for something different. They want something better. There's something called the perception gap, which to me is the most fascinating. If you ask Democrats what they believe on 20 issues, and then you ask Republicans what they believe on 20 issues, and you just take kind of the median Republican and the median voter, and you kind of median Democrat, and then you chart that out, and you look at the gap between them. It's not very big. It's shocking how close together we actually are. But then if you do something different now, you ask Republicans what they think Democrats think on those 20 issues, and then you ask Democrats what they think Republicans think on those 20 issues, and then you chart kind of the median, what they think the other one is. We're this far apart. So we think as a country we're here when we're really here, and that's heartening and dangerous at the same time, right? And so we started asking ourselves, is there something we could do? Could we run an initiative on helping people remember, relearn how to disagree without contempt and hating each other? And so we started talking to experts. It turns out there are some amazing universities doing work on this. Probably the most prominent, Stanford has a depolarization lab where they run a lot of experiments, and I'll share one of those with you. But others as well. Harvard, Duke, Dartmouth, we worked with all of them, as well as there are lots of these depolarization groups out there right now. More in Common, Braver Angels, all of these groups doing it. Sadly, many of them are toiling in obscurity, and we want to kind of lift them up and bring them together. And so that was the impetus behind Disagree Better. Importantly, though, we chose that name very carefully. Disagree, we wanted to be the first word. It is critical that you understand that this is not just we all need to be nice to each other and kind of kumbaya and get along and all agree. We do need more of that, but that is not this. Politics is not that. It is a way to find common ground and to get things done, but we have to understand that disagreement is part of politics. It was designed, our system was designed for disagreement. It doesn't work if we can't disagree and actually have the debate. In fact, one of the most dangerous parts of what's happening now isn't that we disagree, it's that we've stopped talking to each other. That is incredibly dangerous. So we want disagreement, but disagreeing better. That's how do we find the venues and the language to be able to have these debates in ways that aren't tearing people down, but actually lead us to find solutions where we can to our biggest problems. And so that's what we embarked on for a year. I will just say that one of the reasons behind this is something I believe in. And I know many of you have seen this, but in 2020 when I was running for governor, my wife and I, we did not want to run for governor. I'd been the lieutenant governor. I had seen what was happening in politics. It had changed tremendously over the almost 8 years that I was lieutenant governor. They're just seeing the degradation, the hate, and the divisiveness. And so we knew we didn't want to do this. But my governor was leaving, kind of begged us to run. We prayed about it, felt like we were supposed to do it. We decided we'd only do it if we could do it differently. So we ran a campaign. We had this crazy idea that what if we ran a campaign where our state was better at the end of it than it was when we started? Hard to do. I would argue that most campaigns today, we're all a little worse off at the end, a little more divided. And so we decided two things. One, we would not run any negative ads. We would never try to run down our opponents. We would point out policy differences, but that was fair. But nothing personal. No personal attacks. No negative ads. Number two, we were going to do service. And so we were going to visit all 248 cities and towns in Utah, and we're going to do service projects all across the state. And the idea was we would invite our opponents to also do service with us. They didn't like that as much. So it ended up mostly just being us. We did about 80 service projects all across the state. COVID hit, made that a little hard. I tell you all that to say this. I won the primary. Then and the primary was in June, so it was just after COVID, so things were pretty tough. But then we started to see the summer of discontent, right? George Floyd, a lot of protests, which were great. Some of them turned violent. We had some property damage and some violence here in Salt Lake City. We called the National Guard out. Things were getting ugly on the right and the left. And as I'm heading towards the election, this is in kind of early October, a friend of mine says, I'm really worried about our country. Isn't there something you can do about this? She said, I'm worried that if Joe Biden wins, she said it this way, I worry if Donald Trump wins, that the left is going to burn it down. And she says, I worry if Joe Biden wins, that the right is going to shoot it up. And she said, you've got to do something. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just running for governor of Utah. I don't know what I'm going to do. Couldn't sleep that weekend. Had this crazy idea. Called my opponent, my Democratic opponent, Chris Peterson, wonderful human being. I said, Chris, I have this crazy idea. What if we did an ad together where we're both in front of the camera, and I say, I'm Spencer Cox. I think you should vote for me. You say, I'm Chris Peterson. I think you should vote for me.
Governor, can I pause you there?
Yeah.
We have the ad.
Oh,
do you mind
okay.
if we run it quickly?
Sure, go ahead, yeah.
Hoping that technology cooperates here,
Yeah.
but I figured we might go there, and so we'd love to pop that on the screen to show it to the audience here.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
And to maybe offer a reflection once it finishes.
I'm Chris Peterson. And I'm Spencer Cox. We are currently in the final days of campaigning against each other to be your next governor.
And while I think you should vote for me,
Yeah, but really you should vote for me.
there are some things we both agree on.
We can debate issues without degrading each other's character.
We can disagree without hating each other.
And win or lose in Utah, we work together.
So let's show the country that there's a better way.
My name's Chris Peterson.
And I'm Spencer Cox.
And we approve this message.
So, thank you. So, I'm describing this to Chris over the phone. And by the way, first thing you should know is, like, you never call your opponent unless it's like election night and one of you won, right? That's kind of the way it goes. So he takes his cold call for me, and this is very different, very awkward. You have your people talk to his people. That's how it's supposed to work. So I pitched this idea to him, and I can tell he's like, what's the catch? And I said, Chris, I promise you there is no catch. I'm like, I will let you have veto power over every single word. I will let you go first in the video. We will have equal airtime. There is no catch. And he said, well, let me talk to my people and I'll get back to you. And I'm like, that's fine. Just whatever you want to do. And he's like, and he asked a couple more questions. He's like, you know what? I don't need to talk to my people. He's like, this is important. I believe in it. Let's do it. 3 days later, we were filming. We wrote this. I wrote the script, sent it to him. He made some changes to it, and that's the script. So, we film it. We release it less than a week later. It goes viral in a way that I didn't expect at all. I mean, I thought it would get some play in Utah, went viral across the nation. Next thing you know, he and I are doing every morning show together. We're doing global media together. And that was the other thing. I told him, I said, Chris, I'm not going to take credit for this. You get equal credit for it. And I said, I know I'm going to get a lot of calls to appear on these shows. I will not appear on any of them without you. We're doing this together. That's my promise to you. So we did them all together. Unbeknownst to me, Harvard started running this study a little while later. They received submissions from across the country. One of them came from a University of Utah president. He submitted, or professor, he submitted our ad to the depolarization lab. They selected 25 of them, what they call interventions. They tested them on thousands of people and found that this ad actually had a depolarization effect. Specifically, it lowered the thoughts of violence towards the other side. And so that was kind of the basis for Disagree Better. Sorry, that was a long answer, but we thought, could we get other governors to do this work with us? And we got about 24 governors. They filmed ads with other governors, some of them with mayors from their state. It was so much fun. Sadly, we didn't have a lot of money to really get them out there. That's something we're working on now. We put Disagree Better into a 501c3, so it still exists. It's raising money right now so that we can take those ads and do it. Governor Wes Moore and I did an ad together. I don't know if you have that one, but that was a fun one. It was really a great way to point out some of our differences, including racial differences. He says, I'm black, I say, I'm white, we kind of go back and forth. He's from the big city, he's a farm boy from Utah. While we have these differences, we're both dads. We both love college basketball, and we both believe in our country.
And you both have great hair.
We both have great hair. I forgot that was the most important one. We both have great hair, and so it was fun to be able to do that with him. That one has had a second life. Over the last few weeks, with the terrible assassination of Charlie Kirk, on some social media platforms, some people kind of shared it, and it took off again, which was gratifying to see that people are still anxious for this.
Thank you, Governor. Ads like that one have a depolarizing effect. So does service.
Yep.
And later, this group will be going over to Olympus High School to do a service project. Through Disagree Better, you and First Lady Cox incorporated a service project into every one of the initiative's convenings. So I would love for you to tell the group why you made that choice and service's impact on depolarization.
So first of all, I'm grateful you're going to Olympus High. They're terrible people. I hope you no, I'm just kidding. My daughter, when we moved up here, when I became governor, she went to Skyline High, and Skyline and Olympus are rivals. So those are the good kind of rivalries, the good kind of tribalism. We love our friends at Olympus. It'll be wonderful. The research is very clear that service has a depolarizing effect on people. It's hard to hate people that you are serving with. again, one of the mistakes we've made. When I was growing up in a small town, I had no idea who the Republicans and Democrats were in my town. I had no idea who the Democrats and Republicans were in my congregation. It was just, it was a characteristic that was way down the list of we defined ourselves as Utahns and Americans, our religious affiliations, Utah Jazz fans, BYU versus Utah. I'm a Utah State Aggie, which is better than both of them, but it's fine. Again, different types of ways we kind of define ourselves. I'm a parent, I'm a dad, I'm a mom, right? Democrat and Republican were way down the list. Now, that tends to be kind of the number one defining characteristic. The first things that people try to figure out when you meet somebody who you think you like, I got to find out, can I really like them or not? Did they vote for Donald Trump or not? That's going to decide whether I can be friends with you or not. Terrible way to live our lives, terrible way. Dividing families. Service is one of a few interventions that takes that away. Again, in a couple ways. One, if you're just serving regularly and you're giving back, and I would say hopefully giving back not just in tribal ways, but giving service to people where, again, if we're serving the poor, doesn't matter if you're red or blue, if you're poor, right? If we're giving back to people who desperately need it, that will help depolarize us. But more importantly, when we get people of different backgrounds serving side by side, that's when the true magic happens. This fellowship is a great example of that, where we have conservative youth and liberal progressive youth who are serving side by side, finding out they have more in common than not, and it's hard to hate somebody when you're in line serving food, or when you're painting a fence, or doing something positive. And again, this isn't just me saying this. There's a lot of researchers who have figured that out, and it's one of the reasons. Like, if I could change one thing other than shooting social media into the moon, it would be this. It would be that we were a country of mandatory service. I just, if you look at the countries where mandatory service is part of what they do, I would do it. I think you see that in places like Finland. You see it. You see it in places like Israel. You talk to those young people who have gone through that, even if they don't want to. It's just part of their culture. It's part of who they are. Every one of them comes back a better human being. I could tell you, again, in my family, leaving our home for a couple years to go live with people who are very different than us. My 2 years in Mexico changed my life in such profound ways. I have 3 sons so far. One lived in Mozambique. One lives on a small island in the South Pacific, and one lived in Brazil. Again, just the cultural changes, that understanding, eating their food, learning their languages. I've got kids that speak Portuguese and French. Just learning to love people who are different than you. It just makes you a better human being.
We have time for a few questions. Back here.
Right. Hello, I'm Tess. Nice to see you again, Governor Cox, Team Maryland. So my question is, government hasn't been designed to solve every problem, but it does play an integral role in society. How can the network in this room, which is state leaders from all over the country, help rebuild that trust in government and the nobility of public service more generally?
Yeah, thank you. Really important question. I talk about trust a lot. Trust is the currency of governing, and the Edelman Group every year releases their trust index. And it's not just the United States, but there are, I think, about 50 different countries that they survey every year. And they look at trust in 4 different areas. One is government. One is the kind of the nonprofit sector. They look at corporations, and then they look at media. It won't be a surprise to you that trust in all 4 of those areas is declining significantly, especially government. And it's deeply concerning. It's far too easy to just look at our worst intentions. Conflict entrepreneurs are intentionally dividing us, and the attacks on even good governance right now, the conspiracy theories that are out there running rampant, people who are making a lot of money on this, again, via social media, is destroying it. So how do we win trust back? I do think that service is a really important component of this. We have to get to know people. We have to connect with people. Service is a way to do that. If you go back to it's been 25 years now since Dr. Putnam released his landmark book, Bowling Alone, that showed that we were lonelier than ever before. We had fewer connections. Social media just exacerbated that. Service is a way to reestablish those connections. We're built for connections. That's how we learn trust in each other. So we do service projects as our government entities. I mentioned some of the policy levers. One I didn't mention is that we give 4 hours of paid leave to our state employees to do service every year. That's important. Every one of our departments has service projects that they work on together. We do quarterly service projects in my office with our senior staff and cabinet members, just trying to make those connections to help build trust. But to the broader point, I will say this. The best way for government to reestablish trust, this is going to be a little partisan, although there is a growing coalition on both sides that I'm very excited about, and that is for government to actually do the stuff that government was designed to do. It's not that, as I said, government isn't designed to do everything, but government is designed to do some things, and we're doing them very poorly. That's part of the problem. We've passed some well-intentioned pieces of legislation to protect our environment and do other things that are now actively hurting the environment and making it impossible for us to do the things we're supposed to do. So I'm going to recommend a left-leaning book, if you haven't read it, by two of my good friends, Ezra and Derek Thompson. And I think you know these guys. Abundance is a book. Many of you have probably heard about it. It's getting a lot of play. It's been a bestseller for a while now. I have some problems with it. It's definitely towards a left-leaning audience for sure. But it's so important in building those coalitions of actually being able to build again. We have a housing crisis. We want to establish trust. We got to start building more houses, and Maryland is doing this, and I'm proud of what Governor Moore is doing. I've seen some of the changes that are happening there. Red states, blue states, it's a problem across the board. We've got to build more energy. We have to. Energy prices are skyrocketing across this country. We're in an AI arms race. We have to be able to do this now. We need permitting reform desperately in Congress, but we have this growing coalition of red and blue that will do it. If we can't deliver on our promises, if government... I believe in less government, I believe in smaller government, but I also believe in really effective government. And just having government grind to a halt, government that doesn't do anything, government that is very poorly run, isn't a conservative value, for sure. I don't think it's a liberal value. My goodness, even Bernie Sanders a couple days ago was saying that the abundance movement is right, that government is terrible, that we have too much bureaucracy, that it shouldn't take 15 meetings to get to a yes. And certainly we often have 15 meetings and never even get to a yes. A quick no is better than a maybe someday. So those are the things that we're desperately trying to change here. And if I could encourage anything, it's like just get back to government that actually works, that doesn't drag things out, that we actually get answers and we get them very quickly. We get our permits out quickly. We get it done. That's going to increase trust more than anything else we can do. And I'm very passionate about that. So thank you.
Thank you for the nod to permitting reform and for your contributions to NGA's working group.
NGA has an amazing working group. Released a letter two weeks ago, maybe?
2 weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah. Again, Governor Shapiro's involved in that. Governor Stitt, red and blue, coming together. We can get stuff. I have to say stuff.
Yeah.
Get stuff done. Yeah.
And maybe we can do AI next. You mentioned the AI arms race. Not to take us totally off topic, but I feel like we're maybe in this moment, right, where there aren't natural partisan corners when it comes to the AI
That's exactly right. We got to figure out the AI, I think, both the positives of it and how to stop the negatives of it, because if you think social media is destroying our country, it could get really ugly really quickly. Yeah.
All right, who's going to take us back on track? Rowan, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Governor. Thank you so much for your time today and all of your wise words. My name's Rowan. I'm from Vermont. And I want to just take us back to the national service of some sort. And I'm curious, given all the state leaders that we have here today, what words would you have for us if we wanted to eventually move towards having that at the national level? What can we do as states to, I know we're all working toward building service in our states here, but what can we do if we wanted to eventually have that be our end goal of having national service at like the federal level, saying this is what we need to do for our young people to make sure that they are resilient and dedicated and we're all friendly with each other in the future?
Yeah, so I think two things. One is we do have to build this out at the state level. I'm more convinced than ever, and that's one of the benefits of our kind of federalist society, is that if we can build enough of this capacity at the states, then it will be easier to get something done at a federal level. So we have to prove that it works, and I need lots of governors to do that, and so we're desperate for your help. So that's step number one. Step number two is are events like this where we really bring kind of a coalition of the willing together. I spoke in New York recently. Carnegie had an incredible gathering of people. Some of you may have been there, who have dollars, who can help from the funding side as well, working towards national service. And so making sure that we all get connected and that we stay connected, because it's going to take lots of different people, lots of different backgrounds, lots of different levels. So we desperately need the philanthropy class to be helping us with this. We need good examples of how it works at the state level so that we can kind of proof of concept. We need intellectual thinkers who can study this and write about it, right? We need the data and the research behind it, I think is really important as well. And then we need the influencers. So again, just wherever you can find those voices, bring them along. This is one of those areas where a big tent is truly important, because you will find that there is one of the things I'm really worried about, and this is where we could fail drastically, is if service becomes left-coded or right-coded. We can't allow that to happen. So please guard with your life this space. Keep it as neutral as it possibly can be. Bring in people from wildly different backgrounds who would never agree on anything else. Get them in a room together, because that's how it fails. The minute something good gets coded left or right in today's atmosphere, it's the death knell.
Yes.
My name is David Silver from California Volunteers, Office of the Governor. First of all, I was super struck by the video. And as we think about the big tent, and as we think about your appeal to public-private partnerships, and government can't solve it all, in California we have our service corps is 10,000 service corps members. We've created something that supports them as a pilot to get into careers after. But my question is, our governor, Governor Newsom, will be terming out in November of 26. What's the best way to leverage the nonprofit organization that has provided the innovation to show it works, and then we go back into government to make sure that the next governor, to make sure that the next administration, to make sure everyone is demanding that this idea of 10,000 service corps members a year continues?
Yeah, so again, persuasion is so important here. And so I think there's two pieces to it. There's certainly the data piece, and I would collect as much data as you possibly can in areas that I've already mentioned. You want to show the value of this, right? The value both to the individual, so that's where I think, the mental health stuff, the can I find a good job stuff, the what are they doing after this? What is the longevity piece of this? How are they giving back and making it better? I think that's important. I think, again, the impact to the areas where they're serving, where you can quantify that and put even a dollar amount on it, like what are the hours of service that they're giving back? How do you quantify that in a way that shows an economic benefit, because it's there. We want to be able to show that piece as well. I think all of that really matters. But I also want to say, like, the anecdotal stuff is important too. finding 3 or 4 of the very best experiences that someone had that feel emotional. You have to speak in, and this goes for persuasion generally, that we've forgotten the art of persuasion. You always have to appeal to both the heart and the head. And this is where we make mistakes. Traditionally, the left has been really good at appealing to the heart, and the right has been better at appealing to the head. That's not as true anymore for lots of different reasons. But I always say, I want to present the facts, and I need to make people feel something. And so there are the feel something stuff. There's a treasure trove of feel something in this. And I hope you'll take advantage of that. Let me just help you guys feel something right now. I mentioned that we had 4 school districts that where they're adding a service requirement. And it's not just, hey, you have to do service. It's that we're going to work on this together, and we're going to do these service projects together to build connection. In one of our poorest school districts in the southern part of the state, where we have a very large Native American population, extreme poverty, and as you might expect, our literacy rates are pretty low there. And so we had 40% of our seniors that were not reading on grade level, and then kids coming into kindergarten and first grade who are way behind, starting behind their peers elsewhere. There's no quality pre-K. So what they did was, their service project was, the seniors went into first grade to help them with reading. So the entire senior class, I don't know if it was once a week or a couple times a month, but they would go in there, they would have like flashcards, and they would tutor these little kids, helping them read. Awesome, right? You kind of feel good, me just telling you about this, right? Well, so here's the data and the feel something piece. At the end of the year, the literacy rate for the seniors went from 40% to 8% who were not reading on grade level. They had never had a change like that. By the time you're a senior, it's kind of baked in, right? The first graders also had a huge jump versus the cohort from the year before. But we solved the reading problem for our seniors. They fell in love with reading again by serving and giving back to some little kids. Like, that's a story that resonates. I mean, if you don't have a heart if you can't see the wisdom in that. The other thing I will just say is with all our new governors who are getting elected next year, I think we have 36 races. The NGA does what we call New Governor School, Baby Governor School. It's going to be here in Salt Lake City. We're very excited about that. I love it. It's my favorite thing where sitting governors come in. It happens just like a week or 2 after the election, so they're fresh, wide-eyed. It's like, oh, I won. It's like, oh, I won. What do I do now? And we get them fresh, and this will be part of what we share with them. We will talk to them about the service initiatives that are happening and how they can use service. The First Spouses will be here as well. First Spouses, great spot. My wife, part of her initiative is service. She has 4 pillars for her initiative, and one of them is around service, doing great things all across the state. So we're going to help you with your governor. I will come personally meet with whomever the next governor is and make sure that they keep it going.
So appreciate that. Governor, in closing, many of the states here are trying to catch up to Utah, trying to catch up to Maryland and develop and scale these programs in their states. Any kind of final reflection or advice as they take back your wisdom into their policy making?
Yeah, look, just be passionate about it. I know you are, you wouldn't be here. I'll close with this. Arthur Brooks, who many of you know, an author, teaches at Harvard, teaches a class on happiness. He studied happiness, he studied all the data on happiness, and he would tell you, if you were here, that there are 4 things in every culture in the world that every culture has in common that lead to happiness. And lots of research, again, over time, over history, every culture. The 4 things are family, faith, their belief in something, meaningful friendships, and the 4th one is work that serves others. Okay, I was an attorney for a while. I didn't feel great about my work giving back to other people. No offense to any attorneys in the world. There are great attorneys doing wonderful things. But at the end of the day, I didn't have that fulfillment. Like, the word. In fact, the reason I left the legal field, we saw a bumper sticker that said it's 99% of attorneys that give the other 1% a bad name. I don't know what this person had gone through, but it was pretty dark for sure. And my wife explained the joke to me, and I asked her, I said, is the world a better place because of what I'm doing? And she said, absolutely not. And she's very honest. She also grew up in a farm. So that's when we started kind of asking questions. I say all that to say this, that you are all very fortunate to be employed in a job where every day your work is making the world a better place. And that is part of happiness. Giving people an opportunity to serve is the single best thing we can do to improve human flourishing and increase happiness in our country today. We're profoundly sad as a country. We desperately need it. So use your joy in your jobs to push this, to move it forward. Use every lever you have, including using Maryland and Utah. Let our teams help. Again, I'm willing to have a phone call with your governor. I'm willing to call your speaker, your president, whomever, of the Senate, whatever you need to help move these things forward. We believe in it that much, and we're here to help. So use the NGA, use us. Let's get this done, and thank you for what you're doing.